Last time, in the Lighthouse of Lunacy, we managed to, after way too long of me messing around in that admittedly really cool interface, and me having to use quite a lot of the hints, which were very generously given, but just ambiguous enough to still give me some satisfaction when I figured it out. We'd managed to figure out who the culprit is behind the second murder and the first murder as well, because we're still assuming they were behind that. But we know exactly how they pulled off the second murder. We know who they are. Now we're going to have Aurelia explain it for us. Okay. Recall everyone's position during the investigation. The culprit was already on the floor, as I mentioned earlier. He decided to hide somewhere in the justice room, presumably inside the base of the display case. Initially this seemed to work, as Lillian and Mr. Guard failed to spot him. Unfortunately for him, Mr. Guard decided to go take a look. But before things escalate, we have to make sense of what happened in the meantime. Lillian said she climbed over the shelf to look inside Autonomy. This is where you run into the first of the contradictions. How can this be true considering Mariko was at said shelf? The answer to this is naturally what it has to be. Except Lillian is a liar. It's categorically nothing else. Wrong. Both testimonies can be true at the same time. Lillian climbed over a shelf. It simply wasn't the one Mariko was at. Nonsense. Tell her there was no second shelf, Detective. I'm not presumptuous enough to make such an absolute claim. However, I am fairly confident such a thing would have been spotted during my investigation.
It does seem unlikely. Wouldn't Miss Marcella herself see if there were two shelves?
No. Yes, if this is the shelf Martin would think. But if there was another shelf, you know. I'm still trying to work out where the east thing comes in. But it could be to do with the orientation of the shelf, maybe. I grant that you would not have missed a second shelf in the hallway. You saw it, in fact. Your error was concluding that the shelf you saw from Justice was the same you saw from Autonomy. This map was created based on the investigation, which makes it possible for there to be mistakes. You concluded this was the complete layout, as you circled it once and presumably saw the same shelf on both ends. And, to each shelf you saw the door with the symbol of the room you'd expect to be on the other side, cementing an impression. But in reality, the lower floor must look something like this. Because, hold on. Would that fix the... No, I'm not sure about that. It's the only way Lillian can climb over a shelf and then enter a room. Mariko observed this from her own shelf. Yeah. This is only made during the investigation, if that makes sense. Which led to her false impression that Lillian entered the crime scene. Two shelves? I see. There's a high probability this was the reason for your query earlier. Bingo. You investigated the rooms clockwise and finished things up with the shelf. That'd then necessarily be the one Mariko was at. You saw the second shelf, but since you assumed it was the same one, you never bothered with it. Likewise, your device wouldn't have missed the secret room. The error, again, was a human one. What we're dealing with wasn't just a secret room. It was a secret room pretending to be an existing room. You saw it was there, but it was intentionally designed to make you assume otherwise. Anyone with a brain would notice if they hadn't traversed a complete circle yet. Going to have to disagree. That's because of the distorted pattern. Not when the walls were painted with distorted patterns that make the shape of the hallway confusing. I imagine this mess was meant to be part of an attraction for Luna Park. Though, it could also have been that the leads to. Still one data point to challenge your hypothesis with. Lily and Maristella claim she walked into autonomy. Mariko probably says she saw her enter the crime scene. We know those two doors do not look identical. Precisely. One had a painting of a mouth, while another featured an ear. But, I mean, it depends what angle the mouth is at, wouldn't it? The AI, I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not surprised by your failure to spot this. How tiresome that I have to remind you of such a basic observation. You should think up your own objections instead of stealing what someone else said. Because I obviously have an answer for this. Both saw the same door. It just looked different because... We did look in the... We did look in the... door copy in there. We looked in the display room and we found something where it looks different if you look at it from different angles, which I think that was what was called lenticular printing. It's not that difficult if lenticular printing is employed.
We're printing cars now?
No. Lenticular, not vehicular. How did you even say that? It's a special method to make an image look different depending on which angle it's looked from. Surely you've seen one of those cards, the transforms you took them before. Using that method, the door was made to show a different symbol, depending on which side of the hallway you came from. Lillian entered the door, thinking it was autonomy, while Mariko thought she saw her enter the scene. And then... Mr. Gart and his killer got into a confrontation. Gunshots are heard. Everyone on the floor heard that, so obviously the culprit tried to run before he got swarmed. He got out just in time because Lillian immediately rushed after the scene. What about Mariko's testimony, you ask? As I established in the cross-examination, the gunshots made her bury her face in the desk. Just long enough there to miss Lillian doubling back out of the room. Lillian was too focused on getting back to the scene to notice the culprit in the nearby hallway. Even if she saw something in her peripheral vision, she'd likely have thought it was the immovable figure dislocated there. At the same time, Mr. Kova had reacted to the shot as well. Of course, for him, there was no way he would miss the unknown person in the hallway. The culprit turned around and tried to run the other way, and Mr. Kova gave chase. They ran to the secret room, of course. These were the other two people Mariko told us about. After that, she got scared and ran away, so she didn't see what happened next. Mr. Kova returned to the scene, and Dr. Hellinger joined him, after collecting her hunt gear. Oh, so we're not going to reveal that it was X who went back to the scene. This way, everything Mariko saw makes sense.
Well, I can't deny there's a certain logic to it.
This does resolve some of the inconsistencies, but it's far from perfect. Isn't it correct that Mr. Kova's testimony completely falsifies this? A chase with an unknown person is objectively relevant detail to mention? Or is your claim that he would lie on the stand to spite you? Oh, I love lying on the stand. It's so satisfying. But that's not the reason I didn't mention any of this. Want to hear the real reason? It's because this is a fairy tale. None of it happened. I know you want to save Miss Maristella, but it's time to face the facts.
Well, it does not seem like the witness is supporting this theory of yours.
I expected as much. That's where my third question comes in.
The cake? How in the world?
Mr. Kova testified that he wasn't willing to divulge the secret ingredient present in this cake. However, I'm very much aware there's no secret recipe at all. It's just an ordinary cake he bought from a store. Care to explain? Oh please, is this meant to be some kind of big gotcha? Fine, I admit I kept up the impression that there was something special about the cake. What was I supposed to do? It's all part of the marketing. I call that fraud, but regardless, you misunderstand. That's not the real issue here. I figured you'd know I was testing you with that question. After all, I could have this cake analysed and verify whatever you answered. The real objective was never that. I wanted to see what your objection to that question was going to be. My objection? What are you on about? When I asked if there was something weird about my question, you only pointed out that it's irrelevant. That's the real issue. That was a much more valid objection you should have raised. After all, I knew the truth about this cake. There should have been no reason to ask that question, because Mr. Cover already told me the answer.
I suppose that's odd. Why wouldn't he point that out?
It's very simple. He didn't know. He couldn't have known. Because this witness isn't who we think he is. Absurd. I said I was going to summon the culprit on the stand. Here you go. You made it such a pain to track you down. It's nice to finally meet you properly. Should we call you now to fake name? Maybe Doctor? Or perhaps you prefer Mr. X? One thing's for sure, you're not Mr. Cover at all. You're an imposter and a murderer. Mr. Cover's testimony should rule this theory out, if that's all there was to it. But the truth is that Mr. Cover never got to testify. After being chased into the secret room, the murderer must have been able to turn the tables on him. I can't know for certain, but it's sadly likely that Mr. Cover was killed there. Well, this took care of one problem for the killer, who now had a new one. If Mr. Cover stayed missing, it was only a matter of time before the others tracked him down. The search would have been even more thorough, and they're bound to find his footprints on the shelf. The culprit decided to avoid that situation by becoming Mr. Cover himself. This was more doable than it might sound because our FBI agent was wearing almost a full disguise. The fake beard and huge hat pretty much concealed most of his face. It would be easy to tell the difference. All he had to do was show up and then deduce what his testimony should be. Though, I have to say, his acting was pretty subpar. I guess it was just too audacious to consider. But right now, I'd say it's pretty damn obvious.
How dreadful! If the witness did what you said, then not 2 but 3 people have died already.
It's regrettable, but very likely. At least we have the man responsible right here. Now, Mr. X, it's time you stop hiding behind fake names and other people's masks. I demand you take off that costume and show us your real face. Doesn't matter at all. You're not seriously buying her theory, right?
Overruled. This Chase has explained several inconsistencies and demonstrated that the witness is suspicious. The court would like to see your real appearance, Mr.
Time to see what's behind that mask. I wonder if I'm really ready for whatever it is. Could it be? Maybe I was right after all. Partially, I mean. Again, where is detective from the profiles? That is amazing. But I think it's just a mistake. Because it doesn't seem like she's actually relevant to crime. Other than as a witness.
Did you hear me, witness? Please remove your disguise.
Congratulations. Guess everyone here is a genius now. It still could be Thornley. He could have grown a little goatee there and got rid of his blonde hair and put on a wig underneath his hat. Well, happy?
Oh my! That certainly passes as a doctor's outfit.
He was wearing all of that under the other clothes. More importantly though, his face feels familiar somehow.
Do you know who this is, Miss Chase? Because I still got no idea.
Well, I understand you want to look this good too, but can you stop staring so hard? Wait. I know you. You work at Dr. Cavity's clinic. You're her assistant, no? Sure, whatever you say.
So he had an opportunity as well?
Yes, and actually only recalled the dentist at first, but she's obviously not running the clinic all by herself. It makes a lot of sense if it was one of her assistants, though. He must be in charge of scheduling appointments. That's how he set mine to be exactly one day before the auction. Amazing. Well, you got me.
You admit it then? That you were the doctor on the lower floor and killed Mr. Gott and Mr. Kova?
Oh yeah. I mean, as a dark and evil by default. So absolutely, I clapped them good. In fact, I'm responsible for every murder that ever happened in this town. There. I didn't think it'd be that easy. For heaven's sake, guys, that was sarcasm. Anyone? Come on, you're no fun.
What? How can you joke in a situation like this? This is a serious matter.
Please let me cope, Your Honor. If I actually took this seriously, I'd have to hug my knees and cry.
Regardless, you're going to have to explain yourself.
Fine, I'll face cruel reality then. The truth is that Leah over there is tripping hard. What is that supposed to mean? It means you took some of the good stuff. How else would you come up with all that? Got some left? I could trade you my meds. It's probably a bad idea. You think you can talk your way out of this? Mariko literally identified you. Of course she did. I was there after all. I ran so fast to the scene and I tripped and dropped my disguise. I picked it up and ran to the justice before putting it back on. The little girl must have seen me dragging my undercover clothes with me. She somehow convinced herself that she saw two people. Got an active imagination, that one. What kind of excuse is that? You've got to be kidding me.
Why did you not mention that Miss Chase already knew the answer to her cake question?
You're seriously on me just for that? It slipped my mind, that's the sole reason. And me being an assistant at some dentist clinic? Pure fantasy stuff. Leah is desperate to find a suitable suspect. I can't be the dentist, so she keeps adding to her little story. Getting me to take off my disguise isn't the grand reveal you think it is. Only my cover as a local merchant is ruined now. That's literally all you achieved. Hope you're proud. There's still the fourth room in the second shelf. We can easily go verify things with that. Sure, if you can convince the plaintiff to unlock the elevator again, after the mess it created the last time. There's nothing here. You're getting on my ass with absolutely zero real proof. Let me spell out just how little sense it makes for me to be the culprit. My name is Ander Kova, FBI agent. I've never met the defendant before this auction. There's no connection between me and her. I first heard of the lead when it became relevant for my job. He was already dead by then. Mrs. Holden was somebody I interacted with during the last few years. It was purely professional. And the security guard was a good customer and buddy of mine. I got no motive to kill or frame any of them. What reason could I have to go to that much trouble?
If you put it that way, it does seem like you have little reason to do this.
Thanks for getting it. I'm a mere innocent bystander. Well, innocent enough. All this is assuming you're really Mr. Kova. That's still very much in dispute. Leah, please. According to you, I'm just some rando you happened upon. Isn't that dentist located in a totally different city? You'd have even worse of a case.
Well, monsters like Dr. Lead exist. Most people don't just do horrible things to strangers for no reason. You will have to establish at least a potential motive if you want to move forward with this accusation. And please, save any points of contention for the cross-examination.
Very well. Let's proceed to that immediately then. The nerve of this guy. What's his problem? Please just tell me I'm actually onto something this time. This is our man, right? He's got to be. Well, I'll give you my take. Everything that dude just said is total BS. Thanks, I figured, but it's good to have your blessing. I know what I have to do then. Yeah, let's get him! I finally revealed your face. Now it's time to expose all your crimes. There's no way I'd let you get away after everything you put me through today. And technically yesterday, since it's past midnight too. But none of my business. How come you're wearing an entire second set of clothing under your disguise? Strikes you as a bit impractical. It's almost like you didn't have time to properly change. I like it that way. Gotta be prepared in case your main disguise ever gets compromised. Besides, it's cold outside. So where's your way to verify who you really say you are? I could show you my badge if you want. Not good enough. You could have stolen that. I'm gonna need a proper ID with a photo before I consider accepting this. Too bad. I'd be foolish to have that on me during an undercover job. You'll just have to take my word for it. How about we call the FBI and see what they have to say about you? How exactly do you expect that to play out? Hello, could I ask you if this guy here is actually an undercover agent? Yeah, I'm sure they won't have any qualms about handing out sensitive info like that. Okay, point taken. Let's go to the other road then. Let's call the dentist I mentioned and have her confirm she doesn't know you. Oh, absolutely. You're perfectly free to do that. We'll just have to wrap up the trial first. Bad reception in this place, I hear. You've got to be kidding me. Would there really be no way to confirm his identity while we're trapped in this place? You think you can just lie to my face like that? I literally remembered seeing you at the dentist office. Who was a liar here, Leah? I know you're desperate, but you shouldn't make up stories like that. Besides, even if that were true, that'd be like, what? One encounter? Perhaps a single phone call to schedule? That's not much more than passing a stranger on the street. I don't want to have your self-image if you think that's enough to make people want to murder you. I'm obviously not claiming you didn't know me. Clearly, this would have been planned far in advance. Heck, you know you've only taken the job to be able to set me up. This is conspiracy level paranoia. You might want to let a professional take a look at that. Here, I've got some antipsychotics if you need them. Thanks, but no thanks, and stop trying to gaslight me, it won't work. The reason I got myself a gun in the first place was because I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched constantly. That was all you're doing, wasn't it? You were stalking me. A hint of narcissism too. It's really not looking good, Leah. It's almost like you think you're the protagonist here. Newsflash, life doesn't just revolve around you. At the end of the day, I've made decisions in life that likely made me some enemies. I also don't think it's a coincidence things were set out to happen here, of all places. There's something, or rather someone, tying all these things together. I see. Now you're thinking it all comes back to that madman somehow. There's some connection between him and me. Fortunately, I never met him. I recall that Dr. Lieb worked for the Secret Service for a time. Are you saying being a government worker is enough to tie me to him? That's a totally different law enforcement agency. We've got lots of them, if you didn't know. The one is a big government. Well, I know he's just lying about being a federal agent anyway. Fine, let's hear your story then. When did you first hear of Dr. Lieb? Do the math, you pretty much figured it out earlier, no? I'm forced to admit it now, it seems. I was dispatched here to make sure any misappropriated weapons stayed hush-hush. The briefing must have been about 4 years ago, give or take some months. A little after your article dropped. And what did you think of him? There's only one take here. If you don't think he's terrible, you just straight up have wrong opinions. Even though I wanted to get cancelled and called him dope, it was kind of too late to care much for him. Not that easy to build much of an emotional connection with people that are already dead. Hopefully dead. Hard to deny that. But even then, you could have met one of his still living associates and still gotten involved. Well, there's Mrs. Holden, because, you know, she's an actual victim here. I should have a motive for that, at least. Of course, we know you're the one who shot her anyway. Still wouldn't have made sense for me to want to murder her, though. And that professional relationship wasn't full of conflict. It hardly seems she was on good terms with the government. If you were forced to keep tabs on this place for years, oh, don't let that give you the wrong impression. We reached an understanding with Mrs. Holden. she keeps our business confidential, and we stay out of hers. It was all peachy. Me being there was mere caution to make sure she kept her end of the deal.
I'm appalled to hear about these kinds of agreements being made by our government.
And now, the government? Corrupt? Extremely shocking. Gotta cut us some slack. Sometimes tough sacrifices have to be made for the sake of internal security. You're sure Mrs. Holden wasn't one of those necessary sacrifices? Even if you had some sort of deal, this whole auction must have been completely against your interests. Got me there. I won't deny there went some rocky patches in our relationship. Let me tell you though, if we needed her eliminated, we'd choose a better way to do it. Of course, this is purely theoretical. It's not like the FBI would ever murder its own citizens, right? How would you have done it differently exactly? Well, most importantly, there's no benefit in turning the thing into a huge homicide case. Just have it be an accident, or an illness, jeez. It certainly wouldn't make sense to frame someone for it. Especially not a random journalist who might raise a huge ruckus with the press. He's sadly got a point. It might make some sense for the government to get rid of Mrs. Holden, but there's no reason for them to involve me. Well, he's not even Mr. Cove in the first place. The real connection has to be something else. You've got some gall to call him your buddy after brutally murdering him. Wow, it's witnessed intimidation. Please stop. I'm gonna have an anxiety attack.
Miss Chase, please control yourself.
Apologies, I'm trying. Either way, I'm not gonna be sold for a fool here. The guard's murder obviously wasn't premeditated. There was no way to predict that situation. He simply caught you in a compromising moment, and you had no choice but to kill him. You're entitled to your own opinion. Gonna have to respectfully disagree with the part where I murdered him. This isn't gonna work without proof. There won't be any meaningful motive to point out from Mr. Gart. So unless I can establish that he did in fact kill him, there's no way to attack this claim. You say that, but we haven't had any opportunity to actually look into you. You could be Mr. Cova, you could also be literally anyone. I can tell you my entire life story if you really want to hear it. I'm gonna warn you though, it's boring at best, and otherwise just severely depressing. Anything you say is meaningless because we can't verify it. Unless you got any documents on you to prove your claims. Check your standard. This ain't even a stop and identify state.
At the end of the day, the burden of proof is on you, defendant.
Of course it is. There has to be some way to close on the real identity of this man. Otherwise, I just won't be able to establish a motive here. Fingerprints. His whole testimony is one giant pile of lies. The question is there any part we can actually prove wrong? It feels like there's really only two approaches. Why can't it ever just be one approach? Okay, let's hear them. The first one is to prove this guy's an imposter. Yeah, I guess that'd make him look questionable enough to almost book him right away. This approach might be a pain. We don't really have much info about the real Cobra. As you'd expect, since he was making up his own identity as well. So approach number two. Just show he has some actual connection to both the victims and you. Not that simple either. We still have no idea who this man actually is. There's only so many things that connect all this together. That might narrow it down. True, there's only so many options. I'm not sure I like any of them though. Man, it's frustrating to know he's lying but having no clue how to prove it. Come to think of it, wouldn't he have been lying in his previous testimony too? How come you didn't say anything back then? Because I talked to the real Mr. Cover earlier and he was fine. How was I supposed to know he was a different person now? That totally threw off my read. Even your crazy intuition can only take you that far, it seems. Still, you could have at least let me know something was up about him. If you want to have a talk about withholding important info from each other, I'm up for it. Got a couple of things to get off my chest as well there. Okay, forget what I said. I think I'm good for now. No way I'm winning that one. Fingerprints on the cave. That is my, or at least in the plate it's on. This evidence proves you wrong. Killing is also wrong. You seem far from understanding the proper conduct of an enlightened mind.
This Preston's reasoning makes sense. Let this penalty enlighten you.
Fingerprints. No. There's a conflict in the statement.
Who gave you that idea?
It's also confidential. I'm afraid you're an idiot. And you're wrong and you're stupid. Anything? This is fingerprints of... No? The ID? I don't think he would have needed ID. I mean, he would have had like a fake ID with him. I guess we could present the newspaper as the motive. No? I feel like these are all reasonable. Never met the defender before the auction. I was thinking, oh well, technically before the auction, not outside, but no, you wouldn't be even thinking of that. Already dead. Whatever in the last few years. Good buddy of mine. No motive to kill or frame any of them. I'm having a little think for a bit. I might have to use some hints, but hopefully I won't. So I'll see you in a sec. What you say is blatantly contradicted by this. You must be awfully proud of that newspaper. How many more times do you intend to mindlessly present it?
I disagree. This is starting to rival the time one attorney simply couldn't keep quiet about this badge.
Is it my fault that it's relevant this often? There's categorically nothing of relevance left on that page. You've been subjected to it often enough by now. Guess I'll just show you. This part here directly contradicts the witness's statement. Oh. I thought that was a statue, but no, that is actually a person. I always thought that was like a statue in the back or something. You've never met Dr. Lead? I'm not buying it. I've got the proof right here that shows you're a shameless liar, Mr. Knockcover. That is weird. I mean, do you guys get what I mean as well? That kind of looked like it was some kind of statue in the back there. Considering he had statues around, I didn't think that was too unreasonable, but you take a closer look. I mean, it still could be a statue, but it also could be a person. I just never even considered the possibility that was a person. I just randomly presented the newspaper there and managed to cheat my way to it. But if you don't know, when you hover over the examine screen, it will show you one of them takes you to a different frame. I've got the proof right here that says you're a shameless liar, Mr. Knockcover. Wait, that's...
This is not about the lead.
How does the witness fit into this? He fits into this in the most straightforward way possible. Let's take a look, shall we? In a way, you've been with us since the very beginning, haven't you? Because unless my eyes are deceiving me, that's you right there in this photograph. In my defense, we never got to look at the newspaper that closely. When you look at it up close like that, it's obviously not a statue. But from here, it kind of looks like one. Stay calm and listen. I can explain this. This explanation better be good. You said you'd never even met Dr. Lee, but this blatantly shows you two being in the same room. I forgot about that. Fine, I admit I sort of met him there, okay? It's because he was working as a profiler for the Secret Service. He was considered kind of remarkable. So even other agencies sometimes send people to take some lessons from him. I was sent over to attend that event. That's the sole story here. I call nonsense. Think about your position in this photo. You're not even part of the audience. You're observing him from behind the stage. That suggests you were working much more closely with him than someone who just came over to listen once. Really? Now what kind of relationship does this imply? Come out and say it if you think you know. Dr. Lead wouldn't just have let anyone lurk around behind his back like this. He'd have way too many secrets to worry about. It would have to have been someone he trusted. There's only one way to explain this. You're his boss, his subordinate, his murderer. Well, saying he's his murderer doesn't really explain how he trusted him so much, so we'll just say his subordinate. The way he's standing in the back with crossed arms, isn't it almost like a bodyguard? The impression I get from this is that he's someone working for Dr. Lead. He's even wearing similar glasses to the ones that man liked to wear. So that's what we're going with, huh?
A bodyguard, but Dr. Lead was a murderer himself. Wouldn't it have been too risky to keep someone that close to him? It'd be highly likely he'd find out about his activities.
Oh, they'd be bound to find out, alright. But if they're already fully aware of what's going on, that won't be a problem.
Well, I suppose... Wait, that would make him an accessory.
Dr. Lead was part of a criminal organization called the JP Corporation. He was undoubtedly an important member and likely had some others working under him. You get what you're implying. Just come out and say it then. I'm naturally saying that you were one of those underlings. You're a part of the JP Corporation. There it is. And what rational reason would that give him to do any of this? Revenge, of course. I might not have killed Dr. Lee, but I still exposed him with my article. JP stands for Judgment and Purity, particularly the judgment part is important here. It's likely even he has no idea what really happened to Dr. Lee. He couldn't pass judgment on whoever is responsible. Even if Lee was gone, I still smeared his good name, though deserved as it was. Not only that, I had previously worked for him, making me effectively a traitor. So he decided to set up this trap to punish me instead. I can't speak for why exactly Mrs. Holden got involved, but she was connected to Dr. Lead via this tower. It's possible she did something perceived as betrayal as well. That's the true motivation behind this elaborate murder plot. Well, isn't that just damn good? The great Aurelia Chase became a poor victim to the vicious plot of the evil organization. What can I say? You better be careful because you might pull a muscle with that reach. Those glasses, I know, pretty neat. Courtesy of your father. May he rest in pieces. Mike, it really is like that then.
Just a second there, witness. Father, I thought she was a stranger to you.
Sorry, that was just a little dramatic joke to process this. I know, I shouldn't. Never met Leah's daddy. Not her real one, at least. So that's how you're gonna play this. You want me to know, but no one else. You're gonna keep denying it? Fine. If you want to make things difficult, I'll just have to start getting serious. By all means, start using some parts of your brain. People these days have been dumbed down so much already. Anything has to be fed to them in the simplest way possible. Quantum mechanics reduced to Schrodinger's cat. Ethics reduced to the trolley problem. What times we live in. Oops, pardon the joker moment.
How do you intend to make progress, Miss Chase? It seems very hard to prove whether the story or yours is true. As long as we're trapped here, our options are limited. I'm not sure how to feel about this.
It's true. There probably isn't any way to prove this man's true identity here. I don't necessarily intend to do that. What we might be able to prove is that he's not the same Mr. Cobra we talked to earlier. At the very least, that would show that whoever he is impersonating someone else. You had all the chances to do that in my testimony earlier. I wonder why you did. This isn't proof I have on me yet. However, I know of something that will help us produce the proof we need. Another of your asinine checks. How surprising. Really good move for you to presenting me, according to you, real Mr. Cobra. And you're decidedly incapable of that.
It seems quite a tall task indeed, defendant.
No, we don't necessarily have to find it. There might be a way to find proof this man is an imposter if we use this. I'm gonna say fingerprints in the cake plate, but we need to use the hunt device to find it. It's possible to use our detective's tools to find the proof.
That makes some sense. This is the best forensic equipment we have at hand. But what would you be looking for exactly?
We can test if this man is impersonating Mr. Cove by checking for DNA and fingerprints. Go ahead. As when they get sampled. Then we can compare it to... Oh. Anybody happen to have bought that database? This might be a bit of a toughie otherwise.
Without existing DNA or prints from Mr. Cove to compare it to, this won't tell us much. Do we really have something like that?
Uh-oh, this better be really solid. Yeah. Because if it can be disputed at all, you bet I'm going to file a complaint. And when I even look for prints or DNA that are definitely Mr. Cobra's. Wait, maybe I don't actually have to? Might be another angle to this. This whole disguise was something the culprit got forced into after committing the murders. He needed to get back to the scene quickly, meaning the disguise was put in a hurry. That might be the video thing I need. But a single set of prints isn't really enough. I need to have a second set to compare it to. Something else that was touched by the real Mr. Cobra recently, but not this one. I should consider the bigger picture once more. The objects we need to check the prints and then compare are... in the evidence. I'm going to say the case. This is the first object that may hold Mr. Cobra's prints. And this is the object I want to be compared to. Oh, we can't just compare to him. The statement signed by both of you. Please check these.
I'm sorry, but I don't see why they should hold Mr. Cobra's prints.
You never know. You might have touched them when nobody looked. compared to your subpar mind that we wouldn't be able to know they are his prints then? You make a good point, but...
As I thought, this was too tall a order, Miss Chase.
I'll definitely find a way to verify it for you. Should never think this. Do a recap. Do I get to look? Oh, I get to look at this again. This is the same thing. For now, we'll go to not in the evidence. But not in the core record.
Well, that's not the first time, I suppose.
We shouldn't be subjected to any more of your stalling and ambiguity. You think you have a more intelligent answer than the court records for a tout. You think I'm going to back down? You haven't been paying attention. If we compare these two objects, we will find matching fingerprints of the real Mr. Grover. I don't know. I think we have to do a recap. Grover only showed up here. I don't think we saw Cover until this point. No, this is when the trial started in the investigation. This is the next thing we found Mr. Cover in. Oh no. Too early. It's this time that he was in there. The cube! And the blind. That's the garden pole. Oh, well. My bad. Dum-dum. Q and plate. Let's put an end to this charade. Mr. Cover always carried the tray with his refreshments. Given how desperate this whole impersonation stunt is, I bet you didn't even have time to wipe all of it clean. Have it be checked for prints. Oh, so it's not this plate we're checking. And we'll have our answer.
Well, what are the results, Dr. Hellinger?
I can say one thing without conjecture. There are several prints of this witness on the bottom of this tray. Additionally, I found several unknown prints of at least one other person. And there you have it. The prints of the real Mr. Cobra. Amazing proof. Absolutely outstanding, Leah. Can't argue with this one, folks. The jig is up. After all, nobody else would ever want to interact with me, let alone touch my stuff. Yeah, I figured you'd try that. These prints could be any random customers. That's the obvious excuse to make. Therefore, Dr. Hellinger, did you check the other thing I told you about? It was indeed the case, just as you posited. What do you presume you were doing? You conspired with Aurelia? And you dared to do it behind my back? Her request was objectively reasonable. It's in our interest to clarify this point, incorrect? Employ your brain instead of machines for once. Nothing suggested by Aurelia could ever be intelligent or in our interest.
What is this about, Detective?
The defendant asked me to analyse the prints on the item for comparison. Her reasons made a lot of sense. It appears she's capable of prudence after all. The cube is what required analysis.
I see. Actually, I have no idea how this is relevant.
I think it's more efficient if she explained it herself, but there are prints on this cube that match the unknown prints on the tray. Much appreciated. I'll take it from here. This Rubik's Cube is one of the items from the display room. It's not something just anyone should be able to touch. Yet Mr. Cova was spotted fiddling with this cube while we got ready for the trip to the lower floor. If those unknown prints on the tray and the cube belong to Mr. Cova, then those should have been your prints. Got you now. Nice trick. Still we can keep this up. Harry and the so-called real Mr. Cova touched this cuboid again. He said he was spotted, but who actually saw him doing so? How you share that with us? It was Lillian and Mr. Garth. Mr. Poley was also present, in behind the curtain. Well, isn't that just down to quite the lineup then? I suppose we can't really trust Lillian since she's another suspect, but hey, still got two others. Except Mr. Poley wouldn't see much if he stayed hidden behind the curtain. Fine, that still leaves one unbiased witness, namely... Oh. Rip. Hasn't erased the fact that the prints on the cube match the prints on your tray. You're seriously saying some random person hadn't touched both? We can compare the prints of everyone here if you want. I'm confident none of them will be a match. The person those prints belong to couldn't have left this floor. Unless they were one of the people that went to the lower floor and didn't come back. Why do I feel like I'm getting manipulated? Oh, because you're trying to make it sound like those prints have been planted today. Almost had me there, Leah. You're turning this into some Sherlock versus Moriarty stuff.
Can you be clear what your argument is? This seems too unlikely a coincidence. What are the odds that Miss Chase would correctly point to an object with prints matching a tray? She clearly must have known the person who touched both, and that could only have been Mr. Cova.
Yes, that's what you'd like you to believe. What if this was all planned? Let's say she'd hired someone. Call him Accomplice A. First, Doofus' talent gets touchy with the cube. Remember, this could have happened at any time before the place got locked down. Then this A just had to get grabby with my stuff before the auction. He was matching prints there. Also, she could expose me when the time was right. There's no way to tell how old those prints are. I think we're about out of time for today, so thanks for watching.